Meanwhile, we look at what's going on in the news. And in the news the other day, the headline was in the Drudge Report, Trump's victories making China nervous, which makes every Trump supporter thrilled to hear that. Now China warns the U.S. after Trump wins Nevada caucus. The whole idea, of course, the idea that Trump is going to be doing some things with China and the devaluation of their currency and currency manipulation. And China's already scared of Trump, which is only going to help him. And they're reacting, and they're telling us we better be careful. We're lucky enough to have Peter D. Kiernan, a forecaster trends analyst who comes our way from an old friend, John McConnell, at ABC Radio. We used to work together at the network and at the company. And Peter has come out with a new book, American Mojo, Lost and Found, Restoring Our Middle Class Before the World Blows By. He's also written about China, and Peter's on the other end of our line right now. Peter, job well done.
Thank you. It's so great to be with you this morning.
Well, it's great to have you with us. You see the storm clouds on the horizon. You see the big opportunities before anyone else. And you're very adept at explaining how complex national and international issues impact each other and our daily lives. The thing about Trump and China is significant, isn't it?
It is. China, for a long time, has been negotiating against an adversary in the United States who has not paid sufficient attention. I'll give you an example. When I was a boy, we had the finest minds of the generation. Kissinger, Brzezinski, George F. Kiernan, watching every twist and turn of the Soviet Union and interpreting what was going on in the Soviets. Today, China is a bigger threat and a bigger opportunity than Russia ever was. But who is watching China for us now? Who's at the post? Who's the sentinel? The answer is we haven't had it in our government. And it shows, and China has been able to outtrade us time after time after time. There are things you might disagree with Donald Trump about, but one of the things that is factually there is that China has gotten the better of us for now decades.
They certainly have, and he is the only one standing up and saying he's going to stop that. And so, as you say, you support Donald Trump, you don't support Donald Trump. He makes sense, and he brings up issues that are important. Issues that we might not have thought were important, you talk about, Peter Kiernan, and part of it's in your new book, American Mojo, Lost and Found, Restoring Our Middle Class Before the World Blows By. And one of them is happening tomorrow, which for the life of me, most of us would say, who cares? And that is Iran's democratic elections, the democratic elections in Iran, will be held tomorrow. And you have to ask yourself, why does that matter to us? You know why it matters to us.
If I could ask your listeners to just do one thing, because it's so absorbing to think about the Trump election, the Clinton election, the election we're facing today. There is a huge and important election occurring tomorrow, and that's in Iran. And there are two groups that are running. One group is for the Assembly of Experts. And the Assembly of Experts have essentially one job, which is to pick the next Ayatollah, the next supreme leader. And a second election is going on for their parliament. Now, there are people who want to say it's a democratic election and how's it going to go. It goes differently than it does in the United States, and this is why it's important to watch. Instead of primaries and political parties, what you do is you apply to a council of guardians appointed by the Ayatollah, 12 men. And they decide who runs. So guess how many Iranian citizens said, I want to run for office? Over 12,000.
Oh, jeez.
The vast majority of them were turned down by these guardians. So before you even run for office, you have to clear this elimination round. Among those who were castigated, who were eliminated, was the Ayatollah Khomeini's grandson. He wasn't conservative enough.
Oh, boy.
So they're going to have an election, and it's filled out by hands. But to give you a sense how crazy it is, there are 30 seats that are open in the city of Tehran. There are 1,000 candidates running, and you fill out those 30 slots on your voter ID by hand. You write names down. It's a long, laborious process with no oversight. But the upshot is important. What is highly likely to happen is greater traction and greater positioning of the hardliners. Why does that matter to us? The hardliners do not like détente with the West. They do not like the nuclear deal with the United States. They do not want to have anybody influence how they run their business.
Peter, in shorthand, this is absolutely playing against this portrait that the president has currently painted with our relationship with Iran.
Well, there's no question about one thing, and you're so spot on. What's happening here is that there is a disaffected youth. There is a growing middle class in Iran that want these kind of relationships that have been described by our president in glorious terms and reforms and all that. But the hardliners, many of them who are not elected, do not want this to happen. And so what's going on is, if you think about it, Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, is 76 and ill. The Council of Experts who's being elected, this assembly, is going to be there for 8 years. It's an 8-year term. Highly likely to pick the next Ayatollah. If this is a hardline body, as it's very likely to be, many of its members are over 80. And by the way, no women were allowed to run this year. All women running for the assembly were shot down. But this group is going to pick the next leader. So this is something that's going to occur tomorrow that's going to affect the supreme leadership of Iran for probably the next 25 years.
The ultra-conservatives, the clerics taking over, it's going to be completely at cross purposes with these United States of America. And believe me, producing oil, keeping prices, all the things they can do, they will, and it will affect us. Thanks for sounding the alarm. Peter D. Kiernan, a forecaster, if you will, trends analyst, and his latest book worth picking up, American Mojo, Lost and Found, Restoring Our Middle Class Before the World Blows By. Peter, we'll talk again soon.